Hi everyone, my name is Jada Monroe, and the fintech unicorn that I'll be talking about today is Klarna. Alright, so a little bit of background information about Klarna. So it was actually founded in 2005 in Stockholm, Sweden, and it has become increasingly popular in COVID-19 especially because online consumer habits have changed, and we see more purchases being made online, and people sometimes can't afford the full price of products up front. So it makes it a lot easier to have these buy now pay later apps, because then consumers can have access and purchase the items that they want and need and just pay for them at some point in the future. So I just wanted to briefly talk about how Klarna works, and I'm pretty sure most of us are familiar with how these buy now, pay later apps work, but for those who don't know, I just wanted to kind of briefly touch on it. So with Klarna, it's an online application, or when you're checking out, if you don't have the app, if you're checking out at a retailer that uses Klarna, it will just pop up in the checkout section. But if you're using the Klarna app, you go onto the app and they have a store directory that shows all the different brands that use Klarna directly, and you could just go to those, navigate through that store directory, look at the brands that you want, and then make your decisions from there. So then once you get to the checkout page, depending on the amount of your purchase, there's 3 different payment methods. There's the pay in 4, which they split your purchase up into 4 different interest-free payments. There's also pay in 30 days, where there is no fee associated with that. You just have to make sure you pay them back in the 30 days. And then they also have this financing option, which is from 6 to 36 months. And that is, you have to pay the monthly fee, and then there's also some fixed monthly interest rate charges on that also. So all these different options that they have are really useful to consumers, and it just gives them the option to kind of choose what they want to do when they check out. You can either pay for it all on your credit or debit card, or choose to use the app to split up your payments. So I thought that this graph would be pretty interesting to show to the class, and it is from Cornerstone Advisors, and it was actually published in a Forbes article that talked about trends with buy now, pay later. So as we can see, in the light gray is 2019 and the darker gray is 2021. And as I kind of talked about in the slide before, we have seen a really big jump, especially with times in COVID and just being online, how this buy now, pay later has drastically increased. So we can see these big jumps in pretty much just about any generation. So we see the biggest one pretty much with Gen Z, Gen X, and also millennials. And then it's also really interesting to see that the baby boomer generation has adopted this buy now, pay later technology as well. So Klarna, since it was founded in 2005, has been doing a lot to try to grow their business. So they have actually acquired 10 different firms, and the most recent acquisition that they had was in July of 2021, which was with Stocard. So Stocard is actually a German based mobile application, and it allows individuals to store their loyalty card information and also make purchases. And it's really interesting how they're kind of acquiring different fintech companies and companies that just have some sort of digital platform to help them expand just them as a company. So another acquisition that they had that I think was really interesting was that they acquired the firm Hero, and Hero is actually an English-based social shopping platform, and it allows product experts to connect with online shoppers through like text, chat, and video, and really kind of just bring the buying experience to life. So it's like a virtual shopping platform in order to you can take videos of products, kind of have that virtual shopping and then virtual clienteling. So they're pretty much doing this to expand their brand and just kind of have just all these different just kind of more to kind of add to Klarna, and it just kind of makes them stand out from the competition. And that's really what they're trying to do, because we know that they're competing with other buy now, pay later, so they're trying to stand out and kind of be able to have the shopping experience kind of all be taken care of within them. So at the end of 2020, Klarna actually had some really great record financials, and they increased a lot from the past years. So they actually saw a 40% increase in NOI in 2020, and NOI at the end of 2020 was $1.087 billion. So like I said, this was a record for them, and this was the first time that they actually broke $1 billion in NOI. Another great thing that happened was that they saw 90 million active global users using Klarna, and about 20 million of those were in the US alone. Also, since 2005, they have raised about $3.6 billion from 16 rounds of funding, and their most recent round of funding was in June of 2021, where some of their investors were SoftBank Vision Fund, and they actually were able to raise about $639 million. So they also did a venture round of funding in February of 2021, where they raised $1 billion, and that was some of the investors with that were Sequoia. They also were able to have $53 billion of their gross merchandise value, which was also a record for them. So, kind of going more into the competitor aspect of Klarna, we know that Klarna is obviously competing with other buy now, pay later applications, and they're also competing with credit card industry and the banking industry. So with credit cards and banking, usually if you want to get some sort of loan or have them give you money so you could pay for something and pay them back later, we all know that there's some sort of credit check that they have to run. And if you have a bad credit history or no credit history, most of the time you will get rejected for that type of financing or the lending that you may need. With Klarna, actually, even on their website, you don't have to have a credit history in order to obtain their funding. So if you have an item, let's say you want to buy some AirPods, but you don't have the whole $100 for them, even if you have no credit history, you have a better chance of getting approved for paying for that in 4 installment payments as opposed to getting approved for a credit card. So it's just a lot easier if there is someone who has no credit history or has a bad credit history to be able to pay for the items that they want through Klarna. So throughout this presentation, I've already discussed just some of the great things that Klarna can do, such as provide consumers with the opportunity to have the items that they want without having to pay the full price of them upfront. So obviously that's great because you could have everything that you want and pay for it at some point in the future. But there are also some cons to not only Klarna, but just the whole buy now, pay later industry as a whole. So one of those being that there's high late payment charges, and those can be up to 25% of your total purchase price. And if you actually don't make payments for 2 consecutive months, your payments will no longer be interest free and they will become interest bearing, and you will have to pay interest of about 18.9% APR on that. And if you are unable to make payments after that, then debt collection proceedings take place, and we know that just reflects very negatively on you and your credit. And the next piece is that people feel like the platform isn't secure, like these buy now pay later platforms aren't secure, and they want to know how their data is being protected. Although Klarna does specify on their site that the privacy of customers is very important, people still do doubt that, and they wonder kind of like what they're doing with their information, and is the platform really truly secure. And the last one, which I think is the most important one, and one that we've touched on in lectures when we talked about buy now pay later, is that it adds to consumer debt. That is probably one of the most important ones, and the one that actually is pretty true, because when you think about it, if somebody makes a big ticket purchase, it's usually because they have the money for it, and so most people don't make those purchases because they know that they can't afford it. So with buy now pay later, you're pretty much adding to consumer debt because you're encouraging these consumers to take on additional debt that they might not be able to afford. So you're pretty much adding to this indebtedness, and especially with millennials and Gen Z, they already have school loans, maybe credit card debt. So you're building on to the debt that they already have. And so these are just some of the cons of just the whole buy now, pay later industry. So, in conclusion, Klarna is continuing to grow, and like I said in the beginning, we have seen tremendous growth in the past 24 months, like with COVID and everything, and they are going to continue to grow because they are always finding new ways to be innovative. So, the report that I'm reading is actually coming from Business Insider magazine, and Klarna, in March of 2021, they raised $1 billion to accelerate their international expansion. And they have also received some additional funding from really big investors, right? And so after that, it's pretty close that Klarna is being valued at about $40 billion, and they are backed by a lot of different celebrities and things like that have been featured in their marketing campaign. So the funding that Klarna receives and will receive in the future will help them capture more global retail volume by being able to expand into these new markets. And I said like right here that they're planning to jump into other markets such as the grocery market. And by jumping into the grocery market, they'll be able to really just take off and be a step ahead of their competition. So they're already planning a partnership with a Germany-based grocery chain like Aldi. So online shoppers can buy groceries with Klarna's buy now pay later offering. And we already know that online grocery is a rapidly growing space, and this partnership will really help put them ahead. The grocery retail e-commerce sales are projected to reach about 113 billion dollars in the future, according to some forecasts from Insider magazine. And Klarna breaking into this online grocery will make the business just honestly grow even faster and just put them, like I said, a step ahead of the competition. So the capabilities that they have, and just having all of being backed up by celebrities, expanding their offerings, diving into banking, even having loyalty programs such as their Vibe loyalty program really helps them stay ahead of the competition. And I know in the future they're going to continue to grow and remain on top, and one day even pass PayPal Credit, who is their largest competitor. So even though there may be some regulations in the UK, which there are stricter regulations there, I think that they will ultimately still be able to expand and reach the market like they want to do globally. So thank you all for listening to my presentation today.